But Stearns was very honest. He said, basically bracing the fan base and everybody that the most likely outcome is Alonso hitting free agency. I was not surprised, Joe, but I guess a little surprised at how the initial majority reaction was. If Pete goes to free agency, he's gone. In this era, because I saw reactions of, well, if you're letting him go to free agency, you have to trade him because the Mets aren't expected to be overly competitive this year. Let's get to that point first. Second, this is Steve Cohen. If Pete Alonso wants to be somewhere else, that is his right as a player that makes it to free agency. But we just watched in town the Yankees go through a situation with a player that, call what you want. Aaron Judge is a higher degree player, right? Pete Alonso is great. Aaron Judge, we thought he could have got $500 million that offseason.
Yeah.
And the Yankees had the last match and got it done. Something that I think we should be confident in Steve Cohen being able to do. But what were your thoughts on the quote? Because I feel like you probably align with me that this is not a surprising outcome now that we're less than a year away from the potential of it.
It couldn't be less surprising. And to your point, Connor, we're not here to tell any Mets fans how to feel about anything. The whole point of being a fan is you can feel how you feel.
Exactly.
We're here to just try to bring some things together and try to bring some logic to it at times. Not all the time. I mean, it's me, but we try to sometimes. But when you look at Pete Alonso specifically, look, once he hired Scott Boras, he said, I'm going to free agency without saying it. He didn't have to say it. Hiring Scott Boras, because that's what Boras clients do. You could count on like a hand how many Boras clients are signing contracts before free agency. And that doesn't mean that Pete Alonso is gone from the Mets if he goes to free agency. All you have to do is look back the last 2 years. Brandon Nimmo, Scott Boras went to free agency, ended up back with the Mets. Edwin Diaz, not Scott Boras, but went to free agency, kind of, and signed with the Mets just a few days into free agency. So, look, if the Mets want to keep Pete Alonso, they can keep Pete Alonso. With that said, I understand some fan trepidation that all it takes is one team. He goes to free agency, and there's one team that just says, we have money to spend. We don't care about Pete's flaws as a right-handed hitting first base heading into his 30s. We don't care about the historical trends of that long-term ramification. There's one team that just blows you out of the water. You run that risk. But if Steve Cohen and the Mets want to keep Pete Alonso, they're certainly going to have the financial wherewithal to do it, not just within the confines of Steve Cohen's wallet, but within the confines of where they stand payroll-wise, which was a big reason for how this offseason went the way it did. So a long way of saying, I understand if anyone's upset by this quote, but you should be 0% surprised that Pete Alonso is playing the test free agency.